commentary, if it's re-recorded, has to be recorded reasonably carefully so that it still asks the audience to, it guides the eye. I love the idea of asking people's eyes to move around the screen. So the dubbed version will take a bit of care. It can't be just that slapdash way that usually happens in some countries.
I understand that you already think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's not up to us, to be honest, you know, or maybe John could answer that better, but it's up to the country that buys it. I think they probably can do it, as long as they do it well.
Any reason why you haven't shown any scenes from, first of all, mostly watch Cranes? The Cranes are flying, Rosemary's Baby, and...
Rosemary's Baby wasn't.
There's a touch of Rosemary's Baby, but it's on the set of Rosemary's Baby. Closely watched Cranes. Cranes Are Flying. I love those films. Cranes Are Flying I love particularly, but I think for me, Kalatasov's other film, Cuba, is better in some way, or at least more innovative, you know. And I wanted to get to Cuba, you know. We really needed to get to Cuba. The pain, like Carlos Sara was in here, and we had to cut him out. There are loads. I was looking at all the people we had to cut out. There was loads of stuff we had to cut out. Very painful, you know. And we could make a film equally long with all the other stuff we haven't got in. So, you know, but you know, you'd need to sit here for 5 hours rather than 3, and I wouldn't do that to you. Yes, and then.
Right, okay, so that was my question, because yesterday I found a book in our library, and I'm wondering, is there, because the book is 2003, I think, is there much that was cut out that I can find back in the book, or what is the relation between the book and the film?
So this is the question: is what's the relationship between the book and the film? The book is about 500 pages. The commentary here is about 500 pages. So weirdly, they're roughly the same length, but they're actually quite different in some way. You know, the book, I was saying a few days ago, the book tries to conjure something for the reader, whereas this, the word that appears most here is this. It's just, you know, it's in front of us. It's like just look, you know. So it's a different style of writing. You know, and there are loads of, when you're writing the book, it's in full sentences, but here there are loads of sentences that are not full. There are no verbs. You want to use the minimal amount of words to direct the eye of the viewer to what might be interesting. So it's a different style of writing. It's roughly the same length, and what a privilege to adapt your own book and not have to cut it by 2/3, for example. That was very, very good. You know, there are also certain, you know, there's a bunch of stuff that has come along since the book came out in 2003, which is now in the film. We look at Korean cinema, we look at Romanian cinema, etc., which isn't in the book.
Just to continue with the book, does the book have all the fixed stills from the movie?
The book has 1 still per page, so there's 500 stills. There are 1,000 film clips in here, so it's about half the number of clips from the film.
I just wonder, I love that thing with the tunnel and the light and the
Oh yes,
up there.
pure chance. You go and interview Robert Town. He's talking about the tunnel at the end of the light. We come up, we're driving along with my producer, Canadian producer Helen Dutoit, and I see the tunnel at the end of the light. I say, slam on the brakes, and then I get the camera out. Over here, I don't know if you noticed, there's a guy with one eye covered. You know, and that's pure chance. Yes. 2 more questions, apparently. Any other thoughts? So we can speak. Yes?
How long would you say this film took you to make? I know, obviously, you wrote the book before,
Yeah.
so it's almost like you did.
The very first piece of filming was 6 years ago. And then it was bit by bit, and we did other things, we made other films, etc. And then it just sort of gathered momentum. More money came in, a bit more money came in, we filmed a bit more. The last 2 years has been non-stop, and there comes a point when you're making a film where you're sort of dreaming it every night, and I literally would get up in the morning, go to the edit suite and say to the editor, guess what I dreamt about last night? You know that sequence? And he said, I dreamt the same thing. And it's like, oh my goodness, that's too much, you know. But all that, you know, there are other filmmakers here, and we all know that that's what happens. It absolutely goes in. Anything else? Or yes?
Although you're extremely busy now, do you have another project idea or something that you're already developing?
Yes. The question is, do I have another project idea? Yeah, there are nice offers of funding coming my way, which is really good. I've got a film called I Am Belfast, which is about a 10,000-year-old woman called Belfast, and she goes to the famous Northern Irish city, which is named after her, to try and assess it and see what it is. It's a sort of documentary a bit like this. She speaks on the soundtrack, and the soundtrack is entirely fictional, but the image track is purely factual. So we'll see if that works. It could be horrible, but it's a technique. The last film I made was called The First Movie, and it had a similar idea. There's a fictional soundtrack, but a factual image track, and it seemed to have. You're looking for, as Paul Schrader talked yet about this idea of sparks. No, he hasn't. You're looking for a gap between your story and your theme, so that a spark will fly between the two. And I'm hoping that a spark will fly between those two. I think we're done, aren't we? As usual, thank you so much for your time.